Why is there a giant prison wall for them to break out of? Like, does anybody want to explain this? You know what I mean? There's a bit of that. And there's real concern. You know what? I'm going to say some wild speculation here.
Okay.
This isn't a conspiracy theory, because it would only be a conspiracy theory if I told you I was sure that it was true because I had speculated it and I really like it. And I'm not saying that. It's just speculation. And that is, I think that maybe that sort of the deep state in Israel is kind of maybe led by Mossad, probably in the foreign ministry or something, or kind of versus Netanyahu here. And that they kind of blame him for this, for his new alliance with the radical right there, and the way that he has helped to bring this on. And that, you know, maybe people who are closer to the actual intelligence services of Israel have a little bit more of an anti-Netanyahu line, whereas the neoconservatives, of course, are always going to align with him and in his faction of Likud.
Well, I mean, this was such a, I mean, just the act alone, that moment, you take that moment in a microcosm, and it just is such an indictment on the Israeli intelligence community, which is, you know, second only to America's. I mean, what an embarrassment. And that you know, they didn't know what was happening is insane.
Well, look, and here's the deal about that. Okay, they were playing with fire, and they knew it. Like a kid with a matchbook, they thought it would be fine. My friend Sean almost burned a whole golf course down when he was a kid. I actually burned a guy's front yard one time accidentally when I was a kid, and I don't know who it was that came and put it out, but we ran. But anyway, he was playing with fire like a stupid kid. And the idea was, I'll try to make this real simple for people to understand. Picture Israel, okay, if you can. You got that big chunk that seems to be missing out of the right side of it, the east side of it. That's what's left of the West Bank and the Gaza Strip, and the West Bank and East Jerusalem. There. That's not a piece of Israel that was invaded and taken. That's what's left of the land that they have invaded and taken, right? And then you have this other tiny little strip of land on the Mediterranean shore near the Egyptian border, at the Egyptian border there. And, you know, like in the myth, they say, oh, Israel is this poor tiny little strip of land besieged on all sides by its enemies. Well, no, actually, they're friends with Jordan and Egypt, and you know, they have Hezbollah in Lebanon, but Syria can't do anything to them. They've been bombing in Syria with impunity for a decade, and they do exactly nothing. That statement actually truly describes the Gaza Strip. They are the helpless, tiny little besieged strip of land within that tiny little besieged strip of land that the Israelis are talking about there.
Right.
They're this much smaller little one of the Palestinians. And essentially, it's a concentration camp. It's a reservation, an Indian reservation for these people who already have been conquered. You know, they talk about this: Israel, Palestine, Israelis, Palestinians. Well, it sounds like the Palestinians already have a country because, of course, everybody has a country, right? So it's one country versus the other. That's how all, you know, wars on earth are defined, right?
Right.
And like what? Special Hamas is like the special forces group of the nation of Palestine, right? But no, there is no nation.
I should say, this is a special case, isn't it?
That's right. They're under total occupation. So what we have here really is more like the Attica prison riot uprising, right? Or like if Indians had broke out of the res and went and scalped a bunch of Anglos in town in this kind of terrible terrorist act, no one would be forgiving the act. They would all get the death penalty for murdering a bunch of innocent people. And yet at the same time, we would understand that this is not a war of equals. These are the Indians on the res, you know, committing an act of terrorism. Obviously, I hope no Indians get mad at me for keep using this analogy. I'm really not trying to demonize anyone. I swear to God, I all due respect. I'm just saying.
Right. We're trying to find analogies here, you know?
That's right. Look, if
you could say Johannesburg and, you know,
sure. But like, look, because we're from America, okay? So look,
Right.
if some Indians from the reservation out west went into town and started slaughtering a bunch of Anglos, the first thing is you would want to know why. You wouldn't that, and no one would think that you were saying, "Oh, that's good that they did that," or any kind of stupid thing like that.
Right.
But you wouldn't be saying, "Oh, I guess Muhammad made them do it. I guess radical Islam made them do it. I guess they hate freedom, and so they got really upset that we're all so free, and that's why they attacked us." You'd be like, "What's going on here? Did Hillary Clinton sell their uranium out from under them, and now they all got cancer from the mine near their village?" Or is something like plausible like that? Maybe, I don't know.
Right.
And you would also understand that the relative power between, I don't know, the local sheriff's department on the reservation, which is their biggest armed force, that the relative power between the Indian Council on the reservation and Joe Biden, the great white father back east, who is the ruler of the Union Army and the American world empire, you would understand that the discrepancy in power there is like Bill Clinton and a little girl, right?
Mhm.
That's not fair. It's not anything like a fight.
Right.
How about Bill Clinton versus the Branch Davidians,
There you go.
right? There's no need to go in there and bomb them and machine gun them and kill them. You got them surrounded. They can't get out now. And you're right, there was a massive intelligence failure here. But I think, as you know, they called up 300,000 reserves, and the Gaza Strip sure as hell is sealed now.
Right.
Okay. So at this point, what do you do? At this point, you send in Sam Jackson to negotiate, man. You don't say, "Oh, when they're terrorists, they did a bad thing, and therefore I get to be justified now in lusting for this completely disproportionate response of high explosive devices tearing human beings to little pieces this way." And
Right.
I got to tell you, man, I can talk this bad about the rank and file American bourgeoisie on this because I used to be 15. And when I was 15, Bush Sr. took us to war in Iraq. And I wasn't raised to be a Reaganite. I was not really a Democrat, but I wasn't raised to think like, "Oh, Reagan and Bush are our great heroes," and put them on Mount Rushmore and all that. It wasn't that. And I wasn't raised to give a damn about the people of Kuwait either. Who ever heard of Kuwait? None of us ever heard of Kuwait. "Oh,
Right.
we have a holy crusade to put King Al-Jaber back on his throne." What? Nobody cared about that. What it was about was we, including me, wanted to see some big explosions and wanted to see some tanks in action. And what's the fun of fighting a Cold War against the Soviet Union that you can never fight because they got H bombs? But now you're telling me we can literally, finally, I've been waiting, we can now do a Chuck Norris movie where Delta Force goes in and invades this third world, Middle Eastern country. Maybe even the Russians help us do it. Remember in Iraq War I, at least they voted for it on the UN Security Council.
That's right.
And we'll now finally we can use these fighter bombers that we've been basically sitting around practicing with. We haven't been able to kill anybody with them since Vietnam, right? And this sucks, man. And so all the 15 through 29-year-olds or 34-year-olds or whatever in America, we all agreed. Let's go explode the Iraqis so that we can see explosions on TV, so that we can see fighter bombers in action, so that we can see tanks roll, right?